It all started innocently enough, or so I thought. My wife, Claire, and I had been married for 5 years, and life was comfortable. We had our routines, our inside jokes, and a shared love for lazy Sunday mornings. But then, her sister, Evelyn, moved back to town. Evelyn was different. She was confident, bold, and had a way of looking at you that made you feel like she could see right through your carefully constructed facade. I had always been a little intimidated by her, though I'd never admit it out loud. She was the kind of woman who commanded attention, and I was just, well, me. Evelyn had been living abroad for years, working as a fashion consultant in Paris. She had this air of sophistication that made everyone around her feel a little less put together. When she returned, she stayed with us for a few weeks while she looked for her own place. At first, it was fine. She and Claire would chat late into the night, catching up on years of missed conversations. I didn't mind. It gave me time to catch up on my video games or watch sports without feeling guilty. But then, things started to change. It was a Friday evening, and Claire had gone out with some friends from work. Evelyn and I were alone in the house for the first time. I was in the living room, flipping through channels, when she walked in wearing a sleek black dress that hugged her figure perfectly. She had a glass of wine in one hand and a mischievous smile on her face. "You know," she said, sitting down on the couch next to me, "you're not what I expected." I glanced at her, unsure of how to respond. Thanks." She laughed, a low, throaty sound that made me feel even more self-conscious. "No, I mean it. Claire always talked about how strong and confident you were, but you're not." I felt my face heat up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, come on," she said, leaning closer. "You're always so reserved, so careful. It's like you're afraid to let anyone see the real you." I shifted uncomfortably. "I'm just private, I guess." She tilted her head, studying me. "Or maybe you're just afraid. Afraid of what people might think if they really knew you." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just shrugged and turned my attention back to the TV. But Evelyn wasn't done. "I think you need to loosen up," she said, standing up and grabbing my hand. "Come on, where are we going?" I asked, reluctantly letting her pull me to my feet. "You'll see," she said with a smirk. She led me upstairs to her room, which was filled with suitcases and boxes she hadn't unpacked yet. She let go of my hand and started rummaging through one of the boxes, pulling out various items of clothing. "What are you doing?" I asked, feeling more and more uneasy. "I'm going to help you find the real you," she said, holding up a dress. It was a simple, elegant thing, silk, with a delicate floral pattern. "Try this on." I stared at her, incredulous. "You're joking, right?" She raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like I'm joking?" "Evelyn, I'm not wearing a dress." "Why not?" she asked, stepping closer. "What are you so afraid of?" "I'm not afraid," I said, though my voice wavered. "I'm just not into that kind of thing." She smirked. How do you know if you've never tried it?" I opened my mouth to argue, but no words came out. She had a point, though I'd never admit it. I had always been curious about crossdressing, but I had never dared to explore it. It was too risky, too taboo. Evelyn seemed to sense my hesitation. "Look," she said, her tone softening. "There's nothing wrong with exploring different sides of yourself. It doesn't make you any less of a man. In fact, it takes a lot of courage to step outside your comfort zone." I hesitated, torn between curiosity and fear. What if Claire finds out? "She won't," Evelyn said confidently. "This is just between us. Besides, it's not like you're hurting anyone. You're just trying something new." I looked at the dress in her hands, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to say no, to walk away, and pretend this never happened. But another part of me was intrigued. What would it feel like to wear something so feminine? To see myself in a different light? Before I could overthink it, I reached out and took the dress from her. "Okay," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try it." Evelyn's face lit up with a triumphant smile. "Good. Now, take off your clothes." I froze.
"What?"
"You can't wear a dress over your jeans and t-shirt," she said, rolling her eyes. "Don't worry, I'll turn around." I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She turned her back to me, and I quickly stripped down to my boxers. My hands trembled as I pulled the dress over my head, the soft fabric sliding against my skin. It felt strange, but not unpleasant. "Okay," I said, my voice shaky. "I'm done." Evelyn turned around, and her eyes widened in surprise. "Wow," she said, a slow smile spreading across her face. "You look amazing." I glanced down at myself, feeling a mix of embarrassment and excitement. The dress fit surprisingly well, hugging my body in ways I hadn't expected. I felt exposed, vulnerable, but also free. "Come here," Evelyn said, gesturing to the full-length mirror in the corner of the room. "Take a look." I hesitated, then walked over to the mirror. My breath caught in my throat as I saw my reflection. I barely recognized myself. The dress transformed me, softening my edges and giving me a delicate, almost ethereal quality. I looked beautiful. "See?" Evelyn said, standing behind me. "I told you." I couldn't tear my eyes away from the mirror. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," she said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Just feel." And I did. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was seeing the real me. Not the version I presented to the world, but the person I had always been too afraid to acknowledge. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Evelyn must have sensed my inner turmoil because she squeezed my shoulder gently. "It's okay to be scared," she said. "But don't let fear hold you back. You deserve to be happy, to be yourself." I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. She smiled. "You're welcome. Now let's see what else we can do." Over the next few hours, Evelyn transformed me. She did my makeup, carefully applying foundation, eyeliner, and lipstick. She styled my hair, using clips and pins to create a soft, feminine look. And she even lent me a pair of her heels, which I struggled to walk in at first but eventually got the hang of. By the time she was done, I barely recognized the person staring back at me in the mirror. I looked stunning, like a completely different person. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. "You're a natural," Evelyn said, admiring her handiwork. "I knew you had it in you." I smiled, feeling a sense of pride I hadn't felt in years. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I like it." "Of course you do," she said with a wink. "Now, the question is, what are you going to do about it?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you going to keep this hidden away, or are you going to embrace it? Because, trust me, life is too short to live in the shadows." I thought about it for a moment, then nodded. "You're right. I don't want to hide anymore." Evelyn's smile widened. "Good. Then let's make a plan." Over the next few weeks, Evelyn became my mentor, guiding me through the world of femininity. She taught me how to walk in heels, how to apply makeup, and how to dress in a way that made me feel confident and beautiful. It was a steep learning curve, but I was determined to master it. Claire, of course, had no idea what was going on. She was busy with work and didn't seem to notice the subtle changes in my behavior. I felt guilty about keeping it from her, but I wasn't ready to share this part of myself yet. I needed time to figure things out on my own. But as the days turned into weeks, I began to feel more and more comfortable in my new skin. I started experimenting with different styles, buying my own clothes and makeup. I even started wearing lingerie under my regular clothes, just to feel that little bit of femininity throughout the day. It was liberating, but it was also terrifying. I knew that eventually, I would have to come clean to Claire. I just didn't know how she would react. One evening, as I was getting ready for bed, Claire walked into the bedroom and caught me off guard. I was wearing a silk nightgown that Evelyn had given me, and I froze when I saw her standing in the doorway. What are you wearing?" she asked, her eyes wide with shock. I felt my heart sink. "Claire, I can explain." She stared at me, her expression unreadable. "Explain what? That you're wearing women's clothes?" I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. "I've been exploring this side of myself. I didn't know how to tell you." Claire was silent for a long moment, then she walked over to the bed and sat down. How long has this been going on? A few weeks, I admitted. Evelyn helped me. Claire's eyes narrowed. Evelyn? My sister? I nodded again. She thought it would help me loosen up.
And it has.
I feel more like myself than I ever have before. Claire sighed, running a hand through her hair. I don't know what to say. This is a lot to process. I know, I said, sitting down next to her. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was scared of how you'd react. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine. Do you want to be a woman? I hesitated, then shook my head. No, I don't think so. I like expressing this side of myself. It makes me feel whole. Claire was silent for a long time, then she reached out and took my hand. I love you, she said softly. And if this is what makes you happy, then I support you. But we need to talk about this. Really talk. I nodded, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. Thank you. And so we did. We talked late into the night about my feelings, my fears, and my hopes for the future. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And by the time we fell asleep, I felt closer to Claire than I ever had before. The next morning, Evelyn came over, and the three of us sat down together. Claire was understandably upset with her sister for keeping my secret, but Evelyn defended herself, saying that she was just trying to help me find myself. In the end, we all agreed that honesty was the best policy. Claire and I decided to take things one day at a time, exploring this new dynamic together. And Evelyn, true to form, continued to offer her guidance and support. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was truly living. And I had Evelyn to thank for that. She may have set out to prove that I was weak, but in the end, she showed me just how strong I could be. As the weeks turned into months, my journey of self-discovery continued to unfold in ways I never could have imagined. What had started as a secret experiment under Evelyn's guidance had blossomed into a full-fledged exploration of my identity. Claire, to her credit, was incredibly supportive, though it took time for both of us to adjust to this new dynamic in our relationship. There were moments of tension and uncertainty, but we navigated them together, always coming back to the love and trust that had brought us together in the first place. Evelyn, meanwhile, became an integral part of my transformation. She was more than just a mentor. She was a confidant, a cheerleader, and sometimes a provocateur. She pushed me to step outside my comfort zone, encouraging me to embrace my femininity in ways I hadn't thought possible. It was Evelyn who suggested I try going out in public dressed as a woman for the first time. "You've been hiding long enough," she said one afternoon as we sat in her apartment, surrounded by racks of clothes and makeup. "It's time to take this to the next level." I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. "You mean go out? Like, in public?" She nodded, her eyes gleaming with excitement.
Yes.
"You've been practicing at home, and you've gotten really good at it. But the real test is how you feel when you're out in the world, being seen as you." I hesitated, my mind racing with all the things that could go wrong. What if someone recognized me? What if I made a fool of myself? What if I wasn't ready? Evelyn seemed to sense my fears. "Look," she said, her tone softening. "I'll be with you every step of the way. We'll start small, maybe just a quick trip to a cafe or a park. You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with, but I think you'll surprise yourself." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Okay," I said finally. "Let's do it." The next day, Evelyn helped me get ready. She chose an outfit that was stylish but understated, a knee-length floral dress, a light cardigan, and a pair of low-heeled ankle boots. She did my makeup with a light touch, emphasizing my features without making me look overly dramatic. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman who was elegant, confident, and ready to take on the world. "You look amazing," Evelyn said, squeezing my shoulder. "Now, let's go." We decided to go to a small cafe on the other side of town, where the chances of running into someone I knew were slim. As we walked to the car, I felt a mix of excitement and terror. My heart was pounding and my palms were sweaty, but I forced myself to keep going. This was a big step, and I wasn't going to back down now. When we arrived at the cafe, Evelyn parked the car and turned to me. "Readies?" I nodded, though my stomach was in knots. "Ready?" We walked inside, and I immediately felt self-conscious. The cafe was cozy and inviting, with a handful of customers scattered around the room. I kept my head down, afraid to make eye contact with anyone, but Evelyn guided me to a table near the window. "Relax," she whispered as we sat down. "You're doing great." I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. The waitress came over to take our order, and I forced myself to smile and speak in a soft, feminine voice. To my surprise, the waitress didn't bat an eye. She simply took our orders and walked away, leaving me feeling a little more at ease. As we sipped our coffee and chatted, I began to relax. The initial fear started to fade, replaced by a sense of exhilaration. I was doing it. I was out in the world, living as my true self, and no one seemed to care.
It was liberating.
"See?" Evelyn said with a smile. "I told you could do it." I nodded, feeling a surge of pride. "You were right. This feels amazing." After that first outing, things started to change. I began to feel more confident in my femininity, and I started venturing out on my own. I went to the mall, the grocery store, even a park, always dressed in clothes that made me feel like the best version of myself. Each time, it got a little easier, a little more natural. Claire was incredibly supportive, though she admitted it was an adjustment for her as well. We had long conversations about what this meant for our relationship, and we both agreed that communication was key. We made a pact to be honest with each other, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable the conversation might be. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, Claire turned to me and said, "I'm proud of you, you know." I looked at her, surprised. "Really?" She nodded. "It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, to be true to yourself, even when it's hard." I admire that. I felt a lump form in my throat. "Thank you," I said softly. "That means a lot." She smiled and reached out to take my hand. "I love you no matter what, and I want you to be happy." Tears welled up in my eyes, and I pulled her into a tight hug. "I love you too, more than anything." As time went on, I began to explore my femininity in deeper ways. I started experimenting with different styles, from casual and comfortable to bold and glamorous. I even started wearing wigs, which allowed me to change my look completely, depending on my mood. It was like having a whole new wardrobe of identities to choose from, each one reflecting a different aspect of who I was. Evelyn continued to be my guide, introducing me to new techniques and styles. She taught me how to walk with confidence, how to carry myself with grace, and how to embrace my femininity in every aspect of my life. She also introduced me to a community of like-minded individuals who were on similar journeys of self-discovery. It was comforting to know that I wasn't alone, that there were others out there who understood what I was going through. One of the most transformative moments came when Evelyn convinced me to attend a local LGBTQ+ event. It was a small gathering, but it was my first time being in a space where I could truly be myself without fear of judgment. I dressed in a stunning red dress that Evelyn had helped me pick out, and I felt like a queen as I walked into the room. The event was filled with laughter, music, and joy. I met people from all walks of life, each with their own unique story to tell. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. I felt seen, accepted, and celebrated for who I was. As the night went on, I found myself dancing with a group of new friends, the music pulsing through my veins. I felt alive in a way I never had before, like I was finally living the life I was meant to live. Evelyn found me on the dance floor, her face glowing with pride. "You did it," she said, pulling me into a hug. "You're finally free." I smiled, tears streaming down my face. "Thank you," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "For everything." She shook her head. "Don't thank me. This was always inside you. I just helped you find it." As the night came to an end, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I knew that my journey was far from over, but I also knew that I was on the right path. I had found a part of myself that I had been hiding for far too long, and I was never going to let it go. When I got home that night, Claire was waiting for me. She took one look at me and smiled.
You look happy, she said.
I nodded, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. I am happier than I've ever been. She reached out and took my hand. Then that's all that matters. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with courage, grace, and the unwavering support of the people who loved me. I had found myself, and I was never going to let go. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.